Prior to 2006, only people who were considered high risk for HIV were tested for HIV in the United States. Currently, it's estimated that 1 in 5 people who are positive for HIV don't know it because they haven't been tested. Many of them fail to get tested because they don't believe they are at high risk for HIV.
Hey, Mrs. M, how are you feeling?
I'm much better. The pain's gone. The pills you gave me earlier really helped.
Great, that's good to hear. If your pain comes back, please let me know. Listen, I was going through your chart here and looking at your labs in preparation for surgery today, and everything looks great. Everything's normal. I did notice that you haven't had an HIV screening in any of the records that I went through.
What? I don't have HIV. I came in here for surgery. Now you're saying I have AIDS?
No, ma'am, I wasn't saying that. The VA just wants to make sure that every veteran is offered HIV screening as a part of their routine care. Kind of like when you go to your normal primary care checkup appointments and you get blood pressure screening. A lot of people are living with HIV and don't even know it simply because they don't think that they need to be tested.
Well, I'm not one of them. I don't have it. And why is it that veterans are the only ones being tested? Is somebody going to take our benefits away if we test positive for HIV?
No, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's actually recommended that every adult, not just veterans, be tested for HIV regardless of whether or not they think they are at risk. Veterans that are HIV positive don't lose their benefits. In fact, they're eligible for some of the best care anywhere for HIV because they're a veteran. The VA is actually the largest provider of HIV care in the United States. In 2011 alone, we treated over 25,000 veterans that were HIV positive. Unfortunately, only about 20% of veterans in the nation have ever been tested. So as you can imagine, there's probably a lot more out there living with HIV that aren't aware of it.
Well, if it's so important, why aren't you testing me when you take my blood? I mean, I figured you guys were checking me for everything when you took my blood. If something was wrong, somebody tell me. No news was always good news.
You know, I find that a lot of veterans assume the same thing that you do, and that's exactly one of the reasons that we're trying to increase awareness about the need for HIV testing. We want to make sure that veterans are aware that HIV testing is just a part of routine normal care, that it's confidential, but that it's also completely voluntary. You have to allow us to test your blood for HIV. If you haven't been asked if you wanted to be tested for HIV, then most likely you've never been tested. So, with that being said, would you like to be tested for HIV while you're here?
In 2006, public health guidelines were revised, recommending that all adults be routinely tested for HIV, whether or not they see themselves at risk. The VA has adopted this policy and recommends that all veterans be offered routine HIV testing.
Well, I don't know. This is scary stuff. I mean, what if the test comes back positive? I'd feel pretty much like life was over then.
The thought of a positive HIV test is certainly very scary. Fortunately, people don't die right away after finding that they're HIV positive anymore. Years ago, we didn't have the medicine and the treatment options that we have today. But just like with any other disease, diabetes, heart disease, we need to find it early and start treatment as early as we can. Because when you live with HIV without getting tested, it causes damage to your body. During this time, you can also be spreading HIV to other people without even knowing it. The only real way to know if you're HIV positive is to get tested, and that way you know for sure.
Wow. I guess anyone these days could probably have HIV and you wouldn't know it. Seems like they'd look sick. I figured if I had HIV, I'd know because I'd be sick. Well, I'm pretty sure I don't have it, but I'd like to go ahead and get the HIV test done while I'm here just to make sure. I wouldn't want to pass it on to anyone if I did have it.
That is an excellent decision. Our goal here at the Veterans Health Administration is to make sure that we test as many people as possible so that if they are positive, we can identify it and get them treatment as early as possible. Treatment, like I said earlier, will help them live a healthier life, a longer life, and just knowing your HIV status will help prevent you or anyone else from potentially spreading it to anybody else.
Making the choice to get an HIV test can be difficult, especially if the results were to come back positive. The VA is the largest provider of HIV care in the United States. HIV-positive veterans will be cared for by top-notch VA providers who are experienced in the care and management of the HIV disease. Remember, early diagnosis and treatment are the keys to successful management of the treatment of any disease, including HIV. Know your status and ask for the test.